Do more by doing less. With me, Charles Alexander, for small business owners, startups, and busy folks. JJ, where are you calling from today? Where are we?
I'm in Nashville. I'm in my house in Nashville.
See, I'm all right. Might not mean a lot to a lot of you, but I'm right up the road in Gallatin. And
Yeah.
Dr. JJ, for those of you that don't know, is kind of a big freaking deal. And the way I accidentally got him on the podcast, this is his second run. He's only one of a couple folks that have been on twice. The way I tricked him into getting on the first time is I stumbled upon his Yahoo email and I sent him a personal, which bypassed like 8 gatekeepers, and he was kind enough to pop on. So he's coming back today. J- JJ, tell us, a little bit about what you've been doing. You're all things story brand to me, but now you're
Yeah.
branching out. What does that look like?
Yeah. Well, first off, yes, my Yahoo email still does exist for
That's
those people who are
awesome.
like, wait, he has a professional Yahoo. I do not have a professional Yahoo. That's where I send my spam, and you
Yeah,
found it, and I actually found your email. So that doesn't happen a
that's
lot.
awesome.
But yeah, no, that is not my normal email. But yes, I still have a Yahoo account. Um, yeah. So for the last 10 years, I have been working with StoryBrand. I was the head of StoryBrand and head of teaching and facilitation there. And because my PhD is in narrative theory and helping companies and leaders clarify their message, create great marketing. And I'm still a part of StoryBrand. I'm what's now called professor in residence. So I still do teaching,
Ooh,
curriculum
fancy.
development. I know it's a super fancy
It
title.
is.
And so I'm still very involved there, but I'm branching out into some other areas. And one of those areas is I actually started a podcast called Badass Softy. And this podcast came out of, about 20 years ago. I was a touring comedian. I toured doing improv
What?
comedy. Yeah,
I had no
actually.
clue.
I know I never talk about it a lot, not because I'm ashamed of it, but because
Sure.
when you tell people you're a comedian, then they're like, be funny. And I'm
Tell,
like,
tell me a joke,
yeah,
clown.
exactly. Well, I did improv, which is more like, give me a
Yeah.
place where people work,
Yes,
kind of
and.
thing. So I did improv. I toured for about 3 to 4 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
people who know the comedy world know that you don't make any money working in clubs.
Right.
Like, if you see somebody that's not a headliner at a club, they probably got paid $250 for that
Yeah.
weekend. And they got their own plane ticket. They paid for their own hotel. They're paying for their own food.
Yeah,
So they're
they're honing,
losing
they're
money.
honing their act.
Exactly. And so the way you make money is really by doing corporate events and private
Yeah.
events. So we did some clubs, but really we did like, the Christmas party for the egg farm that provides all the eggs for McDonald's, like
Right.
things like that,
Yeah, yeah.
or camps or conferences. And so I got the opportunity to really be with a lot of these leaders who, you know, on stage would kind of present themselves one way, and then I would watch them off stage, and they were not the same person, and their team was
Yeah.
terrified of them,
Yep.
and they were leaving a wake of damage and trauma behind them. Now there was a lot of amazing leaders as well. Like I got to
Sure.
be
Yeah,
around some
yeah.
of the best people in the world. And I really loved the comedy part, but touring is a rough life, right? Like you're like up late and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I
Wife and kids don't appreciate such a thing.
no, you can't have I could not have a relationship
Sure.
on the road.
Yeah.
I gained like 40 pounds because we're eating pizza at 11 o'clock at
Yeah.
night, going to bed at 2, and then waking up at 3 to go to the next town.
Right.
And so I remember I was in Washington, D.C., and in between shows, and I was with my friend, and I said, I think I've loved it, but I think my season in this is winding down. And he asked me, what, like, what do you want to do next? And I remember we were walking down these train tracks in just outside of Washington, D.C. And I said, I think what I really want to do is go back and raise up the next generation of leaders to not leave behind these wakes of pain and trauma
Yeah.
with their team.
Yeah.
And so I decided the best place I could do that really was at like people who are just learning to be leaders in college. So I went back and I got my master's and I started teaching and then got into administration and the student affairs side of things. And I became dean of students. So I was working with like student government, and I
Where
was
was that
working
at?
with where that was in
Yeah.
Southern California. I was at
Okay.
two different universities
Okay.
out there. Um, and so did that for a few years and really just invested in student leaders and I taught leadership and I taught communication and got my PhD in communication. And that I did that. That was part of who I was. And through that, since then I ended up kind of working with StoryBrand, and then I got to work
Yeah.
with leaders all over the world, really helping them clarify their message. And this is kind of hearkening back a little bit to that is I am working with leaders to create incredible products and create great messaging and lead in a really powerful way, but doing it a way that I call it the Badass Softy way, to be
Right.
really like unapologetically ambitious, but also lead with heart.
Not
Like
be a jackass.
care. Yeah. Like I just don't think you have to be a jerk to get ahead. And, you know, it seems simple, but I will say, like, even in my own life, there have been times where I've been in rooms with like people who are unbelievable. And I think, oh, in order for me to show up, I need to be louder. I need to put my
Yeah.
chest out more. I need to
Yeah.
be more aggressive. And I've done that. And I've been able to succeed even in that space, but it doesn't feel good. It's
That's
not
not
who
what
I
you
want to
do.
be
That's not
now.
JJ.
No, no. I lean more into the softy than the badass of badass
Yeah.
softy. And so that's really what I'm kind of doing now. I'm still doing, like I said, I'm still doing messaging and marketing, but really launching this new podcast to really help people live authentically as leaders and be bold and be, get ahead, but also do it in a way that it feels good to them.
I love the fact that you just pointed that out. Side note or mini rant from me. I was just telling a couple of friends of this recently. And we're relating to the sports world about how, so and so's this stud athlete, and sometimes they get penalized, and sometimes they don't show up to practice, sometimes they pop off. And they were talking about, well, that's just what makes them who they are, and they have to and I interjected and said, nope, I'm almost 50. I don't know why I felt the need to tell them that. But I'm tired of that. I've reached my limit with so and so is successful because they're a jackass. That's not true.
Yeah.
They are successful because they're good at what they do. They put in the work. They have a natural skill set. They're a jackass because they can get away with it. And I'm sick and tired of apologizing for these folks, whether it's a whatever, an athlete, a politician, a friend, but mainly like what you're talking about. I've worked for with so many people in the C-suite area that are they're monsters. I mean, they get stuff done, but you're right. The word trauma is not overused. That's correct. They leave a wake of fallen employees behind them so they can get what they want. And they didn't have to do it that way. They were just good at what they did, but they just ran over people.
Yeah, that's the part that I think is the biggest part is for a lot of us who might be a little more sensitive or also just like want to do good things. I don't think you have to do it that way.
Hey, for people that are just normal, you
Yeah,
don't have to be sensitive.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't have to be an empath. You just have to be,
Human.
not a sociopath.
Yeah. And that's the part that really, and I would say, honestly, I've learned a lot from people who are like that a little bit to be more ambitious and to be speak my
Sure.
mind a bit more. But also, it's just not sustainable. I don't think I mean, it's definitely not sustainable
Yeah,
for me.
ask Bob Knight how that worked out.
Yes,
Go ahead.
100%.
Yeah.
That there's always a crash and burn that here's the crazy part that people are rooting for. Like that's when you become
Yeah.
the villain in the story. People will like they're afraid of you. There may even be some loyalty out of fear for
Sure.
you. They will work hard for you. But when you crash and burn, they're cheering. And that's the scary part for me for a lot of the people
Yeah.
is it's just not sustainable for them and it's definitely not sustainable for the people who work with them.
So a lot of the folks that you're working with now, and they're not all C-suite Fortune 500. In fact, I
Yep.
think from the conversation you and I had, you're talking about a lot of leaders who are in, my God, they could be in a solopreneur style space. They're
Yes.
creating course content and they're coaches and they're consultants. Maybe they have a handful of employees, but so what do you tell these folks that they feel pressure to? I mean, if you felt it,
Yeah.
if Dr. JJ felt it, that means everybody's. So what do you tell the folks that have that pressure to kind of be old school with their business norms versus just acting like like they feel, and I know this the term is authentic, but how
Yeah.
what do you tell them?
Well, there's a couple different things. So, from a product side of things and coaching side, there's a whole bunch of suite of things that I do. But really, there's three kind of main areas that I tend to focus in on with people. The first is helping people develop their own point of view. That's I think so key in all of this is that what makes you human, what makes you unique is your point of view, your experience,
Yeah.
your goals, your passion. And so stopping and just going, what does success look like for me? How does my experience inform who I am? Where have I found success? Where have I found that I don't succeed as well? Who do I want to become? And really establishing yourself in the story as the hero of the story. Like going, if I'm the hero of this
Yeah.
movie, what do I want? Who do I want to become? What kind of goals am I setting? What type of path am I forging? And really pausing and almost saying, like, writing your obituary and saying, looking back on my life, this is who I want to become. And I think that's really important. And it's important on a couple different levels as far as like one, setting your goals and leadership style. But two, how do you articulate who you are as a leader? I think that's a lot of times people don't put into words. Like if I ask people like, so how would you describe yourself as a leader? They
Yeah.
actually sit back and they're not sure how to do it. And part of messaging for me when you're talking about like the story brand things that I've done is actually helping people understand their own personal message. What story are you living in this world and how do you articulate that and live it well? So the way that I phrase that is really develop your own point of view.
Okay.
Let's kind of take away all the things that you think you're supposed to be and develop your own point of view.
I really like the hero of the story too.
Yeah. So that's really, I would say, like the first almost like phase of it is
Yeah.
going, who am I as a leader? Who do I want to be? The second phase really then is actually once you establish that for yourself, is you move into the what we call becoming the guide. You show up as the guide in the story. And so in story narrative, there really are four, I can't remember if I talked about this last time, but there are four main characters in a story: the hero, the villain, the victim, and the guide.
You did not.
So those are the four characters, really the main characters that exist in a story. And the reason they exist in a story is because they exist in us. We live these
Right.
out. And how it kind of works is the victim really is the person that something happened to them. And in the story, if that victim stays a victim through the whole story, the only reason they exist in the story is to make the hero look good and the villain look bad. They draw energy or give energy
Hmm.
to them. And no good stories are written about victims who stay victims. Now, in the real world, there are actual victims that things happen to them, and that's not what I'm talking about here. But
The only stories those are like the weird Oscar nominations that win, but it has a sad ending and
yeah,
nobody really
yeah,
likes the movie.
yeah, yeah, that works for French films, but not in
Yeah,
American films.
no, I
Right?
don't want to watch that.
They have to transform.
Yeah.
But really, like if you think about it, no victim, like in our own lives, victims will not write a good story. I will not write a good story of my life if I'm always playing the victim.
Oh, yeah.
So what ends up happening then is you come to almost like a fork in a road. Like if something bad happens to me, there's moments that I can whine, complain,
Sure.
give me about 24 hours to kind of bitch and moan about it.
Yeah.
And I'm the victim in that moment, but then I have to decide, how do I move forward if I want to write a good story? And there's two directions you can go. One is you can become a villain or you can become a hero. Now, the villain works to revenge the pain that they experienced, and the hero works to redeem it. That's really the difference
Ooh.
between the two, is that they often have a common backstory of pain. So the villain and the hero like both lost their daughter in an accident. The villain acts out of their revenge and the hero
John
acts out
Wick.
of their redemption. Yes, exacty. So
Or if you're old like me, it's Death Wish. Sorry.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So then the reality is we get to play those two roles as well. Like if we decide that out of our pain, we're going to cause pain for others, which is often what happens with those jackasses that we're talking about,
Yeah.
is they're insecure, they went through hard things, and now they're going to cause other people pain out of that. or you become the hero and you work to redeem that pain and live a life that actually has purpose and meaning. And that's the hero's journey. But then there's a fourth character that we call the guide. The guide is the one who shows up in a story to help the hero win. So that would be Obi-Wan Kenobi,
Mm-hmm.
Yoda, Gandalf, uh, Aslan. There's always this older, wiser coach who shows up to help the hero win. And the guide is always the strongest character in the story. Always. They are steady along the way. They are there to help the hero win. The hero's up and down. And so, our role then in life, if we really want to be the strong leader,
Mm-hmm.
is that we need to move then beyond becoming a hero and becoming a guide. And the way we become a guide is we show up with empathy and authority. We show up where we care about the people that we're leading, and we also show up with the competence and confidence to lead them forward. The story is not about us. It is about them and their journey. And this shows up as leaders. If I'm leading a team, the highest level and even like the strongest character I can play with a team is to be the guide. As a business or a thought leader, the strongest way you can show up is not as a hero of a story, it's to show up as a guide. So when you're giving a talk, when you're writing a book, when you're creating a course, when you're creating a website that talks about what you do, the best way for you to show up is to be a guide to help the hero win. So I help people show up in their messaging and in kind of the way they live as guides with empathy and authority. So you're showing up with vulnerability, but
Yeah,
also confidence, because those two things have to go together, right? Like if I'm going to a gym and I'm going to work out at a gym and I am trying to hire a trainer.
sure.
And I walk into that trainer and I say, "Hey, I'm here to lose 30 pounds." And that trainer goes, "Me too." Not my trainer, right? Not my trainer. That's heavy empathy, but they're lacking authority. Now, if I go into that gym and ask for another trainer, and that trainer just lifts up his shirt and shows me a six pack and goes, "Well, you got to get off your butt, fatty."
Yeah,
Authority, they got that six pack, but no empathy. If I show up the third time, don't know why I'm doing this the third time, but I show up a third time and I ask for a trainer, and the trainer says, "Hey, I used to be 30 pounds overweight as well. I get it, but I
yeah,
actually took it off. I've kept it off, and I've helped 100 other people do that." That's what it looks like to show up as a guide with empathy and authority. And that needs to show up in the way you communicate, in the products that you
yeah.
create, and how you just show up in person. And
And I
then,
know we got a third point. Hold on,
yeah.
but I want to come back to that. So many of us, when we're trying to create authority or assistance or help, we want to be the guide. We always pick the first, we always do one of those two that you just mentioned. Well, we'll go on that journey together, which sounds great.
Mhm.
I don't want to go on the journey. I want you to take me.
Exactly.
Obi-Wan does not need to be learning how to become a Jedi at the same time. That would not work.
Exactly.
Eh,
And that weakens them. That actually weakens you as a leader, not only when you just show up only with empathy, it also weakens you as a leader when you only show up with authority. Because if
yeah.
you're trying to prove that people need to do what you say and you're showing up as weak. You're showing up as weak.
You're the dude that's constantly leaning against the Lamborghini, talking about how I just jet set it across the world and I sold 1,200 books in 10 minutes, and you could too if you weren't bear, 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 bear. No,
Exactly.
no, I like the first guy better than that guy, and neither one. I, the third option that's what we got
Yep.
to stick with. Sorry, you were about to make
No,
point three.
no, no, no. This is actually, to me, honestly, the most important point is the be the guide. Like if I was just to tell any leader out there, how do you need to show up in the way you communicate, in the way you lead, in the way you run your business, it really is show up as a guide. If you
Yeah,
do that and learn how to do that in a way that um, not only helps it's better for other people and it's better for you, right? Because just what you were saying, like you and I both know we've been at parties like or gatherings where like I come up to you and I go, "Oh, so I hear you're going to France this summer," and somebody like butts in and goes, "Oh, I've been to France. I love France. The people in France love me," and all you're like, "Whoa, back off," we immediately clock that person as being insecure in a social
yeah,
setting, like when they're trying to one up and top you and everything. We go, "This person is really insecure and I don't want to be around them." When we show up as leaders like that, of like, well,
Yeah.
hey, I have all this experience, so you guys need to
Yeah.
shut up and listen. You are coming across, people think that's strong. You're actually coming across as weak. When you position yourself as the hero in the group story that you're
Yeah.
leading, in your own story, you are the hero. But when you're leading other people, you can't be the hero. You have to be the guide. So that is so important. And then, really, the last thing that I've been doing quite a bit of study on recently is the idea of joy and
Ooh.
the practice of joy in leadership and in the way you serve your team, the way you serve your customers. There's a lot of research out there. So let me back up for a second. As a teacher, as a professor, there have 100% been times like in my classroom where I will say, all right, guys, let's settle down. Let's get back to work. Like it's kind of like we treat joy and laughter as things that get in the way of work. We view
Yeah,
them.
you're happy for a minute. Okay, that's like, let's put it right here for a moment.
Exactly. We treat it as almost like a reward we get at the end of the hard work. The research actually shows, though, that when you create moments of joy throughout the day, when people experience joy, they actually are more creative, they're more inventive, and they're more productive.
Yeah, okay.
It also shows that there's research that shows that when it comes to joy, there's actually out of Harvard. Harvard did a study for health from their Center of Health and Happiness, and they show that when we experience joy, it actually helps us recover from stress, grief, and uncertainty. So, joy is actually something that helps us do harder work.
Yeah.
And then there's more, that it doesn't just do that, but it actually, when we experience joy, that it actually lowers our inflammation and creates stronger immune responses. So our immune systems are stronger. There's all this research that's showing
Sure.
that joy is actually part of the work. That when we put joy on the back burner or we say, time out, we've got to work now, that means that we are less creative, less inventive, don't recover from stress, and get more sick. And it's not about the idea of ignoring pain or ignoring hard things.
Hmm.
It's that incorporating joy to help us recover and continue moving through those things. And what I mean by joy is not just laughter and humor, which I think is a part of it, but it's also relationships.
Sure.
It is um, it's whimsy. It is beauty.
He said whimsy. I love that.
It's those kind of things. It's surprise. It's adventure. So when you can incorporate that into your own journey, and then you, as a leader, you can incorporate that into the journey for your customers and your team, you are going to be more effective, you're going to be more memorable, and you're actually going to help people live better lives. And then the kicker is you will be more productive and you will
Yeah.
make more money. That's actually the wild part, is that joy doesn't get in the way of the work. It actually is a part of the work that actually makes things even better.
That reminds, so you remember the fish philosophy books that came out a few years ago? And if you don't know what I'm
I
talking about,
don't
I've added something to your reading list. The fish
love it.
philosophy. It comes from the Pike's Place Fish Market in Seattle, where they would
That
toss
love.
they just, yeah, and that's world famous. But those guys they're joy, even if they're not, they're joyful all day, and they're having fun. And it turned into a series of books, which turned, it was kind of the hot thing of the moment, like in the, I don't know, early 2000s. We're implementing fish, which was always done in the least joyful way, but whatever. The point was, the people who are having fun and enjoying things were more productive.
Yeah.
To throw in another book I'm listening right now, because I listen to books now. The Power of Bad by Roy Baumeister, who's does a ton of research, but a bad experience can outweigh a good experience X number of times. So you have to have like five goodies for one baddie.
Yeah.
But that makes total sense. Like if you're coming in and you're demeaning and you're threatening and you're frustrating, even if that's just your bad day, you got to have those little moments of joy and happy or
Yeah.
whimsy to overcome that, to put you in a productive spot. You want to do it primarily because it's the right thing to do,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
it has all these beautiful side effects.
100%. And that's the other piece of it, is beyond that, like the research shows, it just actually creates better results.
Yeah.
It's just more, it's a more fun way to live.
You
And
have to be a people while you're here,
yeah,
right?
exactly. And here's with all of it, especially in this world of AI and people, fearing losing their jobs and all this stuff, there's certain elements that really still, and I think forever will only be able to be done by humans. And that is the things that I'm talking about here. AI will not ever have a point of view. It has to borrow its point
That's
of
right.
view from you. So if you do not have a strong point of view as a leader, as a business, then you can use AI and these tools all you want, and it's not going to matter. When you show up as a guide, you actually are bringing your wisdom, in the sense of AI can actually interpret information, but you have to bring wisdom to the situation and interpret it from a wisdom and experience perspective. And then finally, that joy piece is that relational aspect that will never be replicated with AI. And so those are the things that I work on with people. And there's actually, I have frameworks around them that I walk through with leaders to help them, either create great messaging for their marketing, create products to put out there, go through a process of understanding unreasonable hospitality and how to serve
Yeah.
your team and customers well. So I do kind of all of those things depending on what people need, but that's really what I'm leaning into right now is this idea that I think you can be unapologetically ambitious. You actually can want to change the world, dream big, and do big things, but you don't have to be a jackass to do it. You actually can lead with heart and be kind. And the research shows that you actually will have a longer career. You will create a safer place for people to actually be more productive. And on top of all of that, you get to be human.
The so put on your crystal ball for a bit. What do you think the next 5 to 10 years will look like leadership wise with all of these changes and everything that you're talking about?
I think genuinely, and this is what some of the research is in the AI space, is that people are craving more human connection than
Yeah.
ever. And we can spot the fake because of AI. We can spot the generic and
Isn't
the
that
fake.
crazy? Like we don't even know, we just see it.
We see it, and people are going to start seeing it in leaders as well. And so it's kind of, in some ways, like I love using AI and I actually use it for
Yeah.
creating a lot of things and a lot of content, but it actually makes me really excited because I think it's actually forcing us to be more human. Okay, because
Yeah.
that is what is going to stand out moving forward. So the leaders who become more human, lean into being a guide instead of the hero of the story or the villain. I think
Right.
that is where we're going to see success. That's where people are, everybody can use AI and be fake and generic and be kind of this. The people who are going to succeed are those who actually lean into their humanity.
JJ, that kind of flew by. I have 10 more things to ask, but I'm not. Uh, and in talking about that, all the stuff and all the things we have to do, I always kind of try to end with the same question. Like right now, what
Mhm.
is something that you personally, Dr. JJ Peterson, should be doing less of?
The thing that, and I've been thinking about how to answer this because there's a
Yeah.
lot of different things. I think the thing that I am learning to do less of these days is what you kind of said in the beginning is put up with people who are
Yeah.
jerks.
Yeah. You don't have to.
No, it takes so much energy to try to make the way that I work is it's not even that I'm like confronting them, but I'm like caring for all the people around them, like after and kind of making sure everybody's
Yeah.
okay and all this stuff. It just takes up so much time and space and energy, and I'm just not here for it anymore. And I wouldn't say I'm great at it, but that's the thing that I'm really working to do less of is put myself in a situation where I have to be around people who are jerks. And if I am, that I want to speak up more.
So if you're around jerks less, what will that let you do more of?
Have more fun, be more creative, get more
Yeah.
done, truthfully, because I'm not having to worry about recovering from their wake.
Dr. JJ Peterson, how can folks find you?
Yeah, if they're interested in kind of going through any of this process of clarifying their message for their business or for themselves as thought leaders, developing their own point of view, serving their people well, you can go to drjjpeterson.com. That's drjjpeterson.com. And you can reach out to me there. Also, you can find me on on Apple or Spotify with the Badass Softy podcast, and you can
Yeah.
listen to some more of conversations just like this that I'm having with other leaders.
Good deal. Dr. JJ, man, I appreciate you coming to hang out today. Took a lot of notes, and we will stay in touch, my friend.
Love it. Thanks so much for having me.
Don't take off just yet. I've created a new program just for you. Join the time freedom community for entrepreneurs that want to work on their business instead of in their business. If you'd rather spend more time with family, friends, traveling, exercising, having the time to do what you want instead of, putting out never-ending fires, tackling another to-do list, and checking email at 9 p.m., then go to my website, yourcharlesalexander.com. If you've created the income you want but don't have the time freedom you deserve, then this is for you. And as always, if you don't, an angel may actually lose its wings. True story. Have a great day.